Star Trek Discovery Episode 4. It's got a creepy title, or maybe it's just the way I'm presenting it. But the butcher's knife cares not for the lamb's slaughter. Greetings, welcome to the Prime Directive. I'm your host Jefficho, and sadly, Chris couldn't be here today because he decided to take the maiden voyage of the USS Voyager. And no surprise, they got lost. Now, where to start with such a great episode? We get to see a uniform replicated from the ground up.
Uniform synthesis is complete.
And Saru backtracking on his niceties he said to Burnham last episode because he thought she was leaving.
I was speaking hypothetically, politely, and as someone who was certain I would never see you again.
Lorca introduces Mikey to his secret lab. Did you notice how all the lights were out in that corridor until they were starting to walk through it? Pretty mysterious. Last episode he convinces her that they're not working on anything that goes against the code of the Federation, that they're just looking for a new way to fly. This episode, however, he wants her to work on this creature by any means necessary and find a way to weaponize it. We spent a lot of time with Klingons in this episode, and Lorca does mention Bird of Preys. I think the only thing that throws us off is they look more like Death Gliders from Stargate. Nice to see the Shenzhou again. It seems like it's going to be Vox Savior twice in this episode, and that portable atmosphere generator was pretty cool. When Vok gets stranded, he breaks the datapad that displays the two people that took him down and killed T'Kuvma. I mean, dude, know your enemy. Didn't you ever read the Klingon Art of War? We get to see Cole again, who seems to be siding with Vok until Vok goes onto the Shenzhou, and then he just brings aboard some KFC for his crew and they side with him. It's not very honorable, these new Klingons. So Cole has stolen the only Klingon ship with a cloaking device, a technology maybe they've forgotten or they just stole and never actually invented themselves. Hopefully he can reverse engineer it and add it to more Klingon ships for like a season finale or something. L'Rell and Vok had a lot of bonding in this episode, so I really liked it when she betrayed him, even though it was to save his life. Now they can go on a big story arc of trying to save the House of T'Kuvma and take it back. But the big question here is who or what are the matriarchs on the home of Mokai, and how are they going to make Vok into the greatest torchbearer ever? I'm getting a lot of Kahless feels when Worf visited that monastery. Well, I hope you all enjoy Commander Landry's time in the show before this well-trained tactical officer makes a stupid decision that gets herself killed. I wasn't a fan of this, because Starfleet doesn't breed stupidity. It made no sense. I mean, you just killed off an actress who's pretty accomplished, you killed off a character who's an important one, security chief, for what? To keep pace with something like Game of Thrones, where it's like, oh, anybody could die at any time? The difference is they build up their characters, so when you kill off a Sean Bean or an Oberyn Martell, it's just like sudden shocking, like you didn't expect it. In past Trek, when you killed off a main character, it meant something. I just kind of felt disappointed. I mean, are we going to get a new security chief now? Maybe Shazad Latif coming up soon? Also, Chris was right last episode, and I'm glad he's not here to hear me say that, but it does seem like the species of the creature named Ripper is a tardigrade. Aside from a size difference and a microanimal from Earth, it was nice seeing it in more light. And I really enjoyed how it was used. I mean, Burnham's science and study of it rather than weaponizing it, and how it all led to the solution to their problems. A biological navigator. But as much as it likes feeding on its spores, it's not a willing process, and it's hurting and killing the animal. Not gonna get much use out of it if it's dead. Maybe Stamets could save the star map that he's got on his display? Archer would never approve of such animal cruelty.
You hear that, boy? We're all pulling for you.
Lorca was great in this episode, and Admiral Cornwell interrupting his dinner and again eating next to a Tribble. I really liked his confidence when he said, "I told you we'd be ready when you called, and we are," even though that was just to set up a joke that they weren't ready.
Discovery's made dozens of small jumps with no issues. We can make it the full distance.
You have no doubts?
None.
There is no way in hell we'll be ready to jump that
You
far.
told me you knew why the Glen failed.
He didn't get that upset over Landry's death. Maybe it's to show how cold he is, or maybe he's just so focused on the mission at hand. He does mention checking your ego to Stamets, you know, to get him back on task. That's of course after Stamets had fractured his skull on a console. And then he plays that guilt trip message for the whole crew. This isn't a captain that's going to be well liked. I even get the sense Saru, his first officer, isn't a big fan when he said, "Mikey, you'll fit in perfect with Lorca." But I think he'll be well respected.
The Discovery is no longer a science vessel. It's a warship.
That is not the mission I signed on for. I'm not a soldier.
Then get off.
I like the way Lorca talks on the bridge, like collision is not an option. But I do have some questions with the rescue. I mean, yeah, they took care of the Klingons, but where was the relief effort? I mean, they've got wounded, they're surrounded by rubble that's on fire. I mean, they could probably use some help. This was an important dilithium mine. I'm glad we got the explanation for what happened aboard the USS Glenn. And what about that spinning saucer? That was interesting. I thank God, Star Trek, no. I thank fuck that the theories on spore travel were accurate, because if they had designed that ship based on the theories and anything was off, then it probably wouldn't work.
That hardly seems fair. I always wanted to converse with my mushrooms.
Relationships are starting to build. Obviously, Tilly and Mikey, and even Stamets is starting to warm up the Burnham. And we learned from New York Comic Con that Michelle Yeoh will be returning. Technically, she was in this episode, and I loved her message.
Know that I am as proud of you as if you were my own daughter. Take good care of those in your care.
I mean, it's a good lesson for Burnham to help her down the path of redemption. I like that she said she thought of her as a daughter. I mean, that just makes me miss her character more, and with the fact that we never got to see that relationship. Now for theories, I don't know if they've come out and stated it, but they've hinted that we're going to have a Mirror Universe episode, so they could bring her back that way. But if history's any lesson, I mean, she'll have to be an evil version, because her character was pretty good. Another possibility raised by T. James in one of our comment sections is time travel. I mean, we're already like folding in space and reappearing somewhere else, which is the same way of traveling in Event Horizon, another Jason Isaac film. Maybe she could come back through time travel. I mean, I think the show is better with her in it on a daily basis. I'm being pretty entertained by this show, but by having a character who represents the best Starfleet officer would go a long way for me. It'd also be a connective tissue between this and the rest of the captains in other series. But this show really is its own thing in comparison, taking from other sci-fis and sprinkling Trek on top. But like Burnham, as she's going to develop into a better Starfleet officer, will the series follow suit? Showing us humanity at its best is a fundamental in Star Trek, and I think you could still have war and conflict between characters and still do what they're doing. They did that in Deep Space Nine. Hopefully next week, Chris finds a stable wormhole and comes back. Till then, thanks for watching.
We're alone, in an uncharted part of the galaxy. We have no idea of the dangers we're going to face. But one thing is clear. It would take 75 years to reach the Federation. Somewhere along this journey, we'll find a way back.